Hi Mithul, hi Harshan. Thanks for joining us today on this coffee chat. And I'm so glad because we have two admission representatives here today in one call itself. And I'm sure our students will learn a lot from this. So before we get into the questions, maybe Mithul, you can start, and then Harshan, you can go. You can give us a little bit of an introduction for our students and parents.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Abhinav, for having us on the coffee chat. It's been an amazing series. I've been following up with this series, and you're doing a great job. So I am Mituul, and I am the director of international recruitment for South Asia region for Juniata College. I work with the students from India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka region. Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect. I'm Harshan. I'm the admissions officer for Muhlenberg College. Um, it's a small liberal arts college based out of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Um, I'm here to talk about my college and have a great discussion with you, Abhinav. And once again, thank you for inviting us over.
Great, thanks for that. And Juniata and Muhlenberg are both such diverse student bodies, and they're great private liberal arts colleges. They have smaller settings, and this whole liberal arts education concept keeps coming up. And now we have liberal arts colleges in India as well. But just for the students watching it, because there's very little exposure to students who are doing it for the first time, what is a liberal arts education exactly?
Yeah. Harshan, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Before I get on to the students, a lot of parents have a misconception about liberal arts. They go attach importance to the word arts, and they think there's something liberal about studying arts. But that is the first misconception I'd like to clear. It's nothing to do with arts or science. You get a lot of exposure to STEM and non-STEM. A wide variety of topics are the students are exposed to. But the way they structure their course, is that's where the liberal part comes in. So there's a lot of flexibility in how the courses are structured and how the classroom is also the way that the subjects are communicated is also there's a lot of it's very liberal in that sense. It's not the misconception is the arts is taught in some sort of liberal way. That is not how it is. You can study math, computers, you could study the humanities as well, but how
Yeah.
you approach it, that's where the key is. So I want to clear that misconception first. And over to you, Mithil, to go on from there.
Yeah, I absolutely second what Harshan said, that there is a lot of misconception, in the Indian parents, especially because we come from a generation where for us after 10th was only commerce, arts, and science. And arts has a tag with it that, you study sociology, psychology, or history, or or subjects like that. But it
Yeah.
is nothing like that. The concept of liberal arts in United States per se, or now it is becoming a global concept or a structure in education of liberal arts, is that the key focus is not just the domain expertise or the domain knowledge that a student gets. So the main emphasis or the equal emphasis is also the overall the roundabout development of the student. So the emphasis is on the critical thinking or problem solving or leadership skills alongside whatever domain of study you select. I mean, so there are subjects like computer science, information technology, biology, pharmacy offered by the liberal arts college. But yeah, this, I think, gradually this misconception will clear off. And I see a large number of application pools coming every year. So this actually shows that a lot of awareness have actually gone into understanding of what liberal arts education is all about.
Yeah. No, perfect. Thanks for that. And that's something, going off that last point, Mithul, that's something obviously all IECs also try and do, because at the end of the day, we realize that a lot of these liberal arts colleges, the acceptance rates are extremely low. They're very competitive colleges. And sometimes
Yes.
people think liberal arts, we haven't heard of some of these colleges, they're not as famous. And these things also come because, yes, a lot of them don't offer, PhD and master's programs, which ends up being one of the reasons. But for undergrad students, I mean, the education is fantastic across, most of the liberal arts schools in the US. Yeah. Great. So, starting with you, Mithil, what makes Juniata College special?
Yeah, I this is an interesting question, and a question which is dear to me, because my entire work that I do, and I love my work, recruiting students for Juniata, basically revolves around this, because I am passionate about Juniata, because Juniata is a special college for me, and one of the key reasons why it Juniata is really special is the strong, encouraging, and supportive community as a whole. So I still remember the initial times when I was inducted. I got such support from anybody and everybody at Juniata. Even the first timers, I whom I reached out from my end, they were like all welcoming and all ready to help. And gradually, I came across a realization that this is the scenario for the entire Juniatian community. So be it a person from India, be it a person from a tier 2, tier 3 city of India, or be it a person from Italy or Japan, which is considered to be a very shy community, by the way. Everybody has this one special thing to talk about Juniata, and that is the extent to which Juniata really helps the student come out of their comfort zone. And needless to say that we are a very strong, small, close-knit community with diversified student body. So the entire 1,300 students at any given point of time at Juniata campus basically represents 30 countries, 30 states from United States of America, and 35 different countries across the globe. So this particular environment where the family is small and everybody is different and everybody is supportive and helpful really builds that kind of confidence and self-belief in a student, especially if he's coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities. The class sizes are small. So I always say this, I always quote this, that with Juniata, it's like, being a big fish in a small pond compared to, being a small fish in a big pond in, some mainstream colleges. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think the key takeaway there was just the support that is provided, and the numbers around internationals and out of state students is also very, very good to know, because that's one of the biggest questions that, at least as a counselor, we get, is that what sort of diversity exists. And one of the things that we have now started looking at is, let's go beyond just rankings and let's see whether a college is a good cultural fit for you. So, having that international diversity in body is so important.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that. Harshan, going over to you, same question. What makes, Muhlenberg special as a college and as an institution?
Yeah, thanks, Abhinav. I mean, I was just listening to Mithul speaking about Juniata. I mean, and I'm like, what more do I add? Because a lot of the themes are quite similar. Because Muhlenberg is also a small liberal arts college, and it's a very close, well-knit community, community-like college. Um, but what I was just building on what you were saying, Abhinav, regarding fit, and that is a very important thing for our college. When you talk about fit, and there are so many liberal arts colleges, universities in America. So how do you know what student goes where? And as Indian students and parents, they first go for the big brands, the big universities. That is fine. I mean, the obvious reasons is because they're big, they're well known, they're reputed. But that's where, like, colleges like Muhlenberg, a small college, comes into play, because not all students would fit into Muhlenberg, but because they are small and because they have certain strengths and certain popular majors, they would get that extra bit of attention for students for that particular choice. So, for example, Muhlenberg is really known for its theater programs, so filmmaking, music, drama, theater. Students who really want to excel in that background, but do not have a lot of theater work with them, they don't have a strong portfolio.
Yeah.
Because it's a liberal arts college, they can, they'll get that attention, that mentoring, and that transformative process built into the college system. And so, so that's where really, a small college, and that's where Muhlenberg really shines, because there are specialties that every college has, every liberal arts college would have, where students that respond to personal attention, that respond to mentoring, because of the small size, because it's very community based, because everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
That's where students could really shine, as opposed to being lost in the crowd. As Mituul was saying, being a small fish in a large pond can get overwhelming. Not just in a college, even when you go to work, you work in a huge organization. It may be a lot more difficult for you to shine in a bigger organization, as opposed to, let's say, a startup or a small company. So the same principle applies. So just that's what a lot of similarity in terms of, it's a small liberal arts college, but like every liberal arts college, Muhlenberg excels in a certain area. So one of them is theatre, and there are several others like media and communication, and so on. So that's where liberal arts college really plays an important role.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that one point about theater, and you said that it's not necessary for a student to have a lot of experience in that field before. That's amazing that, Muhlenberg is encouraging that and also sort of enabling students who have that interest but have not had that sort of exposure. It's hard to have that exposure if you're coming from a lot of Indian cities. So you get to college and then you realize this is something you can pick up. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So that leads me to my next question, in terms of one of the questions that, of course, comes up, at least in India and a lot of other South Asian countries as well, is the one of scholarship and financial aid. So I just wanted to ask that, are there scholarships and financial aid available for international students at both the colleges?
Yeah, sure. So one of the best part of Juniata, as serving to international students, is that we have got a track record of giving scholarships to 100% of the applicants. So I don't recollect, knowing from my seniors that there have been any single person who has actually paid the entire fees that was mentioned either on the website or on the brochure. So this basically goes on to say that Juniata really thinks that financial burden should not be an issue for any student to be, being void of getting a good education. So, in the entire recruitment process, it is by default an understanding, or it is considered that an application should be evaluated both on merit basis and the need-based scholarship. And there's this one single form that we require the student to fill up, and that is ISFA, that is International Students Financial Aid Application Form. It's a form basically to for us to understand the financial standings of the guardians of the student, or their parents, or whoever is sponsoring their education. So basis on that, we give some good generous amount of scholarship for the entire 4 years. Just to share an interesting statistic, so last year, being a private liberal arts college where we do not have federal aid in terms of supporting our international students, but despite being a private liberal arts college, we gave this scholarship on an average of around $42,000, which is quite generous compared to the other numbers that I know from different colleges. And all of this is basically going to be constant for the entire 4 years. So there are many colleges which ask the students to apply, to submit their CSS profile every single year so that they can assess and reevaluate the scholarship offered. That is not the case with Juniata. So whatever scholarship is offered to the student in the year 1 remains constant the entire 4 years. So that is something that eases off a lot of burden from a lot of parents. And this is one area that parents who are otherwise very aspirational of their child, looking forward to give the best they can, to their children, to their son or daughter. And this is where they kind of somehow have, are forced to, step a little back and then alter the decision last moment because they do not get the kind of scholarship that they look at. And I'm so happy that Juniata goes an extra mile to help those people. So yeah.
I'm glad to hear that as well. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Harshan? At Muhlenberg, is there scholarship and financial aid available as well?
Absolutely. Even as Mituul was saying, we are also quite serious about scholarship. I think last year our amount is also around the 40,000 mark on average scholarship,
Okay.
and 96% of all our students got some form of scholarship or the
Wow.
other. Numbers wise, it's quite similar, and the intent is also there. And even when students are choosing certain majors, for example, I keep coming to theatre. You can get scholarships, additional grants for them as well. So
Wow.
I always encourage students when they are applying, and if they are very specific and they already decided what they want to pursue. Not all students may be
Yeah.
do that, but those students are very sure they can ask for additional grants as well. And we are very serious and very committed to giving as many grants and scholarships and aids as possible. So yes, absolutely, we are very much on the same page here.
Fantastic. That's great to know. Brings me to my last question now, which we're all going into the application season, end of August, going into September, and students are slowly getting ready to apply now. So, at this point, are there any things that you would recommend students doing, or any sort of mistakes perhaps in their application that they need to avoid or watch out for? Any tips on that?
Absolutely. I mean, this is one specific question that enough is required, as minimum as around 40 minutes or 50 minutes. I mean, because as a person who recruits student, for my college every year, I get to read a lot of common applications, and when you keep on reading those applications, you kind of see some patterns in which the students really either miss out on doing the right thing, or they they are it's not really helpful to them, or they're not really educated or aware of certain things. And I do have a lot of inputs in this, because last year when I read good number of applications, I saw a lot of students making similar kind of mistakes. So one mistake that is very small per se, but for a person like me who understands the common application from a different perspective altogether, would really understand the personality of the student, right? So I personally think that common application is like those YouTube shorts or that 30-second commercial where you have to project the best of what you have to offer to your audience. And common application is just the first impression of the student to the application or to the admissions officer or the admissions team, right? The first mistake that generally students do is they answer only the mandatory questions which are marked in the red asterisk in the applications. So I personally feel that the student really wants to say only what is asked, or only what is mandatory made them to answer. So for me, all those information which are not compulsory, which are not mandatory, also it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
A simple example that in the profile section there is this name, middle name, and family name or the surname, right? And the asterisk marks are only in the name and the surname. 99% of the students do not write the middle name, right? So it speaks a lot about the person's personality, the student's personality, that they just want to give only the bare minimum information, right? Same goes with the address part. So a lot of times they write very bare minimum address. Now, last year there was something that I had to courier. My college had to courier a student. Now the address mentioned on the common application was very bare minimum, so I had to reach back to the student asking for an actual clearer postal address so that my college can share a copy of the document that the student required.
Yeah.
So it is things like that, you know. Should not The students should not really be confined to only giving the information which is mandatory. So they at times miss out on that. Uh, Another mistake that students generally do is they have a very generic approach towards all the colleges that they apply. Now,
Mm.
this could be misleading because it is called as common application. So they kind of take this term very literally, that it is a common application. So my application has to be common for every college that I apply to, that I, really look forward to studying it.
Yeah.
Ideally, it should not be, the case, because as an admissions officer, I want to know that if you're taking time out of your entire busy schedule and applying to us with an intention to studying in my college. So
Yeah.
as much as you are looking forward to committing for 4 years to my college, we are also committing, for 4 years to you, right?
Yeah.
So for us, even you are important and your intentions are important, right? But sadly, what happens is because of various reasons, the student is multitasking at that point of time, projects, assignments, and then the application and the classes and the tuitions, etc. They tend to basically do the cut, copy, paste work in an application. So I think they should really avoid this. They should utilize that additional information wala section where they have the opportunity to speak more about what is their intention to applying to that particular college, or something that reflects best in their personality of their work of interest,
Yeah.
right? So that's another area that I think student generally make mistakes. Also, uh, you can speak a lot about the essay section, because I had seen, I've read a lot of essays with dramatic effect,
Yeah.
with the intention to create the sense of sympathy in the mind of whoever is recruiting, creating the sense of favor that they are asking from the admissions officer in a sense. So ideally, any admissions officer would just want to understand that what that really person is,
Yeah.
right? Who exactly, what the true self of that person is, not necessary that he has to project himself as the hero in his story, right? That should not be the case.
Yeah.
So for a person like me who wants to work with a student who's really honest with his own self and with the college that he is intending to study for the rest of the 4 years, it is very important for me to understand his real self, right? And not an attempt to either misguide the admissions team, or projecting only the good part of him. So these are some of the areas that I think the student should really avoid.
Yeah.
Right. Anything that you want to add, Harshan, on this?
Yeah, just a little bit about the essay section and the extracurriculars. I mean, we can understand the students' perspective. They would really want to impress their personality on their application, but sometimes that objective gets across as disingenuous, in the sense, extracurriculars, for example, when they're putting a timeline on their extracurriculars. I mean, maybe 9th, 10th, 11th, there is not much happening. And 12th, all of a sudden, you have, a lot of extracurriculars that the student is engaged in. And that's one example. And the second example would be, timeline. So, you're engaged in so many activities throughout the week, plus you're doing your schoolwork and so many other things. And, these things, when you look up, it starts to become a little disingenuous, and it rubs off the wrong way. So I would suggest that when you're mentioning extracurriculars, focus on those extracurriculars that you have been doing. It could be something really small as well, like you've been part of you're learning a musical instrument, for example, that you may be doing for quite a few years, and right from the age of 13, 14, and you're continuing to do so. So that indicates a continuity. So that's one area that that there's a pattern. People, students tend to bloat or over exaggerate, or sort of cram together all their extracurricular in 1 year, and so that looks a bit dishonest. And the second area is when you're looking at the essay, you have to talk about as Mituul was saying, not as a hero script. You have to be really honest in the way you portray yourself, what your interests are, because we are only trying to understand you as a person above and beyond your academics as well,
Yeah.
and a little bit of context. For example, if you say in your that you were part of a chess tournament and you came number one, it helps to know, because we or admissions officer may not know how important that
Yeah.
particular competition is. So a little bit of context on what the competition was. You came number one, number 10 out of how many participants. So that helps to give some context to what your activities are, so that the person reviewing your application has an idea of what this competition was and how many students participated in it and why you were part of it, and that gives a better picture of your personality. So I just wanted to add that bit
Yeah.
over there.
No, those are some great points. I think starting with Mitul's on making sure you're not just doing what's required and doing more than that. Because I also think that translates into the college. Because if a student is doing that, they're going to come to college and just do exactly what's needed to finish an assignment, but they're not going to go, over and above that. And that's, in my opinion, that's not something that would work well at good liberal arts schools, that you guys are at. So that was a great point that I really liked. And with activities and essays as well, students definitely, with essays, sometimes students think that this is just the place where I have to show how great I am, and they what they don't realize is the college is just trying to understand a little bit more about you, about your characteristics, your journey, things like that. uh, so fantastic, these are some great insights, and hopefully it's going to help all the students who are watching this. So
Abhinav, one last point that I want to add is I'm sure that this might help your students a lot. Avoid last-minute application submissions, because again, it reflects an aspect about your personality, right? You would not want to come across as a person who just wakes up last minute and wants to cover as much area as possible. So if you're serious about applying to any colleges, just make sure that you plan well in advance so that you have good buffer time, and you also have an add-on advantage of a possibility of getting a higher scholarship maybe. So yeah, avoid last-minute applications submissions. Yeah.
great point. Lovely, guys. So this has been fantastic, and I'm like I said, I know this is going to help a lot of students, and I'm sure you guys will have a lot of applications to read in the coming months. So all the best for that, and thank you for doing this once again.
Thank you for having us, Abhinav. It's great talking to you.